And we're here live with Miss Carla King. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Tara. I'm glad to be here.
No problem. So, as we let people trickle into the chat here, just going to do kind of just a few welcomes and intros at the beginning. So, here live with Kobo Writing Live. And if you're in the chat, let us know where you're coming from. It's always very fun to see where people are tuning in from around the world. I am here again in Toronto. Carla, you said you're in Santa Cruz in California, living my,
That's
my
right.
dream life.
I know it is kind of a dream like here.
Oh. Well, let's get started. So, I mean, your bio is so impressive, Carla. I'm just going to read out a little bit of it and then you can kind of maybe
Okay.
summarize yourself. But you are an action adventure travel writer, blogger, and author. You pioneered the art of real time online travelogue in 1995 with your American Borders Dispatches. Sent from the saddle of the Russian Ural sidecar motorcycle she tested for the American importer. That okay, I want to hear everything about that. um,
Okay.
you have taught with the Wild Riding Women, the San Francisco Writers Conference, San Diego Writers Inc., many other places. And your travel writing includes web, blogging, social media, self-publishing. You also run the self-published boot camp. That's did I miss anything? That sounds like a lot.
Yeah, you meant I have said, yeah, I've been in the industry since, I've been self-publishing since 95, right? And I've been on the internet doing stuff since the beginning. In 95 as well with the real-time online dispatches from the road.
Wow.
Uh, wasn't called blogs yet, right? It was HTMLing and FTPing and all that stuff. There weren't any tools yet, so that was super fun. I'd been a technical writer for years before, so I was perfectly poised to take on the internet, which is kind of how I got my start because I really didn't know a lot about travel writing, but the industry was desperate for people who were doing cool stuff and knew how to do all the FTPs and HTTPs and all of
Yeah.
that. So I slid in with my tech knowledge.
Oh, I really love that. So we have Carol is
Mhm.
coming in from Central North Carolina. I'm guessing is NC. My state knowledge is always I think that's NC. And then we have Tammy is in New Brunswick. And we also have Rashid is coming from Lagos, West Africa. So that's really
Nice.
awesome. So we've got the
Yeah.
travel people coming from all over too.
I love
Um,
West Africa. I bicycled through West Africa in 93.
oh wow.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that has to be one of my favorite trips.
Man, where haven't you been? Have you been to
Yeah,
everywhere you've wanted to go in the
I
world?
actually haven't been to South America. I haven't been to Australia. Um, yeah, I haven't been a lot of places because I tend to travel deep instead of
Mm,
fast and wide. I go to one
yeah.
place and I kind of go slow.
Yeah,
I
that's
know
a nice
people,
way
I'm
to
a
do it.
motorcyclist, so people think that I go fast, but I choose these motorcycles that tend to break down. So I get stuck and I have to stay in a town and get to know everybody and fix the motorcycle. And, that's where the stories come from, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So you began writing like what were blogs before blogs existed,
Mm.
for kind of like travel writing. So how did that lead you into going into like self-publishing, before it really was a boom? Like you're talking 1995 was early days. So
It
can you tell
was.
us a little bit about how you got into that area?
Well, actually, strangely, the internet had nothing to do with my first self-publishing experience. I was living in the south of France in 92, and I was planning to go to West Africa after that. And I was training. I had a mountain bike, and I was exploring, and there were so many great trips. So I wanted to write this little book about the paths that you take, these trips. And I sent it off to all the publishers that I knew, and I kind of known them for a while. And they said, "Hey, this book is really good, but we want a whole South of France book." And I was like, "I'm not going to do that." So since I was a tech writer and I knew Microsoft Word and and I knew how to make a book, I had like written 100 tech manuals. So I don't know if you call those a book. So I put together my own little, this is out of print. It's Cycling the French Riviera.
Oh,
You can't
nice.
get it anymore. But I got like little maps. I got a friend of mine to make maps. And this is actually all done in Word. And I have pictures of all the
Oh,
cool
really?
places you can
That's like
go.
so nicely formatted
It is.
for what Word can do.
It actually is, I'm good, so I went home and I printed about 1,000 and then I went back to France and I sold them in all the English language bookstores and all the tourist offices because I wrote it because there were no guides. And I made enough money to go back to France again. And then I sold some more and I made enough money to go back to the south of France again. And I was like, okay, I love this self-publishing stuff. I just love it. So that's where it started. And then when I did the American Borders trip, which was the trip um, on this crazy Russian Ural
Wow.
motorcycle, that was in 95. So I sent a dispatch in every single week. And then the book came out of the blog. So they're not the blog posts. It's better than that. But that's where that originated. And so I'm still working on my trip, but the book memoir from my blogs from China, which was a 4-month, very illegal journey in China in 1997 and 98, before there were a lot of cars or even there were like dirt roads everywhere. And now, you go back and there's roads paved and millions of cars and toll roads and things. But it was a true adventure back then. Wow. The
I
Wild
bet.
West.
Like literally not
Mhm.
having a guide because when I travel, I'm just a big fan of always having like a Lonely Planet or something, or but it
Yeah.
does often feel like you're like, oh, we're all going to the same spot, or this is the same route that everyone's taking. So yeah,
Yeah.
that must have been just so different back then.
Yes. Yes, it was. Yeah.
Nice.
I
So your
loved it.
print books led into your kind of publishing them digitally. Is that what happened? That people were just asking for them digitally, or was it just easier as the internet became more popular?
Well, so the blogs came first, and also a lot of social media after, because I did a trip around India, and then I did a trip to, around the Adriatic and through Italy. And by then I was kind of, Instagram wasn't uh, born yet. So I was tweeting and Facebooking and then blogging and then writing stories and then putting the stories together in anthologies and contributing to anthologies and yeah, the print books are also ebooks, so that all happened at the same time. It just felt really natural to do that. It's really easy to do that.
Nice. This is just a question that I have just that has just come to me. If you're doing like travel writing blogs live, like you're doing them weekly or not live, we're
Mm.
live, that's why I'm thinking that. But if you're doing them weekly, like how close is that to journalism? Like, do you think it's very similar, or is it still like travel writing is sort of its own unique thing?
It can be journalism. Journalistic style is a lot different than a travelogue style.
Yeah, right.
Um, and I would come up, like in China, there were a lot of newsworthy events that were happening, but there's still like, in 98, I, the news wasn't getting to China. They actually had the digital divide there,
Right.
which is still sort of happening sometimes, but we've jumped over that. So I wasn't getting news from America, and America really wasn't getting news from me. I would send my dispatches by email because I couldn't upload them directly to a site that everybody could see, right? And this was done with O'Reilly. No, the American Borders was done with O'Reilly and Associates, which was a technical book publisher who jumped into the travel industry, and they also have a anthology series called Traveler's Tales. And by the way, they welcome submissions. So look
Ooh.
up Google Traveler's Tales. It's a great first place to get your travel stories published. It really is.
Nice. That's a top tip that I'm writing down
Hmm.
myself.
Good, good. Yeah.
Nice. So you're an expert in indie publishing, having done it for such a long time, and you're always, you've given back a lot to the indie community with your knowledge, which is one of my favorite things about working in this industry, is just
Mhm.
how open everyone is and how much people want to help other people succeed. So I'm curious, as indie publishing has sort of changed so much in the past like 5 years, or especially 10 years, what do you wish you knew when you were getting started? Or was there resources that you wish you had that are available now?
Yeah, I mean, there were no resources when I got started. So in
Right. So you're like
2008,
anything. If there was anything, I would have taken it.
exactly. So I was traveling since 95. Social media, the internet, um, nothing. And then so I got, when Amazon got the Kindle, and then Mark Coker started Smashwords, and then, it snowballed in Kobo, and everybody started creating all of these cool tools. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to follow each tool as it comes out. Well, I quickly got overwhelmed, but I did maintain and review all the tools for the industry, like PBS. I wrote for PBS and reviewed you guys and Ingram Spark and Amazon and everybody else. Um, so it's just, we're so lucky now. There are so many amazing options. What I know now that I got really lucky with, that I keep helping authors do, is getting early readers. And because I was like the only one on the internet at the time, I had early readers on my blog, right? Reading my blog. And it was amazing because I had done some travel journalism before, and my publisher, or the magazine publisher, the newspaper publisher, would kind of pass on letters, third hand, and I would get feedback from my articles. But I would write a blog post and I get an email right away about, like, oh my gosh, you're nearby, or oh, you have to go see this, or oh, I love that part that you wrote about the couple that you met, and or something. Um, so these conversations that I was having naturally with my audience helped me so much, and I didn't know it. And I realized that a lot of authors jump into authorship now and writing stories in such a vacuum. So many authors don't show their work to anybody before they publish it, and then they publish it and they haven't had any conversations about it and all of that. So what I learned by accident is what I teach a lot, to new writers, or even writers who have been writing for a long time who aren't having much success and getting engagement, is to start talking to readers early.
Right. No,
Does
I
that
think
make
that's,
sense? I kind of
it
went on there.
does. No,
Okay.
it does absolutely.
Mm,
Because yeah, I agree that perhaps it's the ease of being able to publish now makes people want to jump in. But I think having that relationship and the kind of direct communication that you can have now with readers is certainly something that's definitely beneficial to anyone at any stage of their publishing career, I would say.
mhm. Yeah, and I was so
Oh, sorry.
hungry for information, about the places I would visit, and who could I find that knew something cool to do, or who had done it before. And I think this isn't just true for travel; it's true for any genre at all, fiction or nonfiction, right? You kind of want to hang out with people who are writing the same kinds of things, like who know the new cool books, who like what's trending, right? There's always trends about places, and I mean book cover colors, and I mean there's trends on everything. So when you have a conversation with your fellow authors and experts and influencers, and or you're looking at the media that's covering them and that topic, you just it's this is wonderful, kind of cooperative ecosystem where everybody's friends, right? Because readers don't just buy one mystery book and then they buy one romance book and then they buy one travel book. I mean, if they like mysteries, they're going to buy 100 mysteries, and if they like romance, they're going to buy that, and if they like travel, they're going to buy that. So grouping up and being friends is a great marketing strategy. And it's so much more fun than just like going, I have to do marketing now, I have to put my marketing hat on and do that. Because if you just make friends with everybody who's talking about what you love to talk about, you're already marketing.
Yeah, exactly. And Tammy has mentioned here travel writers group as well. So that's
Hi, Tammy.
I'm sure
Yeah.
a really beneficial place for people to connect. And especially as authoring is
Mhm.
sort of like a solo or you're kind of just doing it on your own. People might not really understand how challenging that is. So it's always good to connect.
Right. And yeah, Tammy, hi Tammy. And I do have a public Facebook group for the virtual travel writing group, and you can look that up and join. And then a private sort of subscription based paid workshop thing. And we just I just love workshopping stories in a group. Everybody has a different take on it, and we just sit there and brainstorm and talk. And the author talks out the story, and we're like, "Oh, you got to put that in there, right?" And so the story grows, and it just becomes better and better.
Nice, nice. I love that. That
Hmm.
kind of leads into my next question. I was going to ask, like, what advice that you have for an author who's completely new. But would that be sort of it? Is to kind of reach out and find your people to connect with?
Yes, absolutely. Don't be afraid to share your early work. I mean, early. And yeah, like in the travel writers group, we often just share scenes. You can share scenes with other writers and go, is this interesting? Is this a full scene? Like if it were a movie, could the director like set it up with the right characters and the buildings in the background and the noises and um, and where could this go? And I think when you get with a bunch of other writers and just share pieces of things, it makes you a lot more comfortable with your writing. And then once you have a story, just, you know, give it a quick proofread with Pro Writing Aid or Grammarly or AutoCrit or whatever, and put it out there, whether it's, uh, I don't know, what public forums for writing do you recommend, Cara? There's so many.
There's as well. I feel like you would definitely find any sort of Facebook group seems to be really popular right now.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
even we had a podcast that went out this week about how authors are using Clubhouse to really find communities there. And that's
Mm.
something that didn't exist a year ago. So
I mean, you can even blog your stories. Facebook Notes actually is a great place to publish stories. I have a consumer's guide. If you go to destinationpublish.com, there's a free consumer's guide. And in that are a list of places, Wattpad,
yeah, I was going through that guide yesterday. It's so detailed and has
mhm.
literally everything that you could want. And now it makes sense to me because I didn't realize your background was technical writing. So it for sure makes sense as to why you can so clearly describe and organize what sometimes seems like a crazy amount of things to know when you're publishing.
Yeah, and I keep adding and deleting and changing because companies merge and they disappear and they start
Yeah.
adding features. And like there was book funnel and now there's prolific works and story origin and like which one is which and what do you use? And I try to keep up. It's a lot harder than it used to be.
For sure. Well, one of the
Mm.
other books that you have is the self-publishing guide. I'm sure I have the title wrong now.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Yeah.
a long title. It's the
Okay.
Self-Publishing Boot Camp Guide
That's
for
it.
Independent Authors, fifth edition. Fifth
Five.
edition.
Wow. How
Yeah.
often do you update that then? Like just whenever there's
Every
enough new info?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I think this was published last year, and no, in 2019, the beginning of 2019.
Nice. I like
So I keep up with. So the thing is the consumer's guide is free, and it's actually at the end of the self-publishing bootcamp guide for independent authors. And but if when you subscribe, you get updates to it via the consumer's guide. So
oh nice.
I always tell people check that before you choose your publishing tools.
Nice. I'll get Laura to drop a link to those books in the chat, so you
Thanks.
can see them on Kobo. But going
Great.
through that guide, you have a section where you talk about beta publishing, and that was sort of interesting to me. And I was wondering if you could maybe talk about this a little bit and explain what it is and why authors should be doing it.
Yeah, well, it goes back to what I was doing naturally is I was beta publishing through blogging really and getting impressions from my readers. So I had an editor for my dispatches before they would go out into the world. He'd just edit quick and make sure I didn't have any spelling errors or said something, you know, too politically incorrect or something, whatever, and before it would go out. And so he was my editor. If you don't have an editor, you might have a writer's group. So the first line is a writing group or an editor. And then when your story or book is still in draft form, put it out to the world. Like, um, we should probably talk about mailing list somewhere in here, but um, um, it's like before you publish, make sure that you have a tribe of people who are really excited about it being published. And so you have to find readers, and whether that's in a Facebook group or people you know, or just somehow you have to dig these actual readers up. And it depends on genre because, of course, being travel, I'm in the travel community and I actually meet people at travel events, and conferences are a great place to find critique partners and sometimes readers, right? So I go to Overland Expo, for instance, and all the influencers are there and the public is there, and it's super easy to find. It's also easy to, if you have an area of expertise, if you can present part of a panel, form a panel, you can kind of start to become an influencer as well, and your reach, widen your reach. And it takes coming out of your shell a lot, I know. And believe it or not, I used to be so shy that I couldn't stand up in front of a group and read my stories. I was so debilitated by it. And finally, my work was getting so much more popular that I was getting asked to do it more. And I had to take an improvisational acting class to get over it, which was a
Wow.
huge leap for me.
That's really
Huge.
smart to do that actually, because I hear sometimes from like bigger authors that also don't love it's the reading your own work. It's a very vulnerable thing to be doing in front of people. But
Mhm.
yeah, improv, that's a great tactic to get more comfortable.
It took me forever to do it. I had a few friends. One was an actor, and he kept saying, "Carla, you have to do it." And that's the last thing I'm going to do is stand up on a stage. And finally, I was sleepless for about 3 nights before an event, a big event. And after that, I was like, I can't take the stress. Anything. I'll try anything.
Nice.
Yeah.
But so with
So
beta
did that answer?
publishing, I guess you have to, I guess the aim is to get your draft in front of like a group of people that you really trust. So not necessarily putting your draft out
Well,
in the wider sense of things, or how would you define that?
I don't know. I mean, like, if it's you're writing memoir or something really personal, it might be different. You might feel like you need a trusted group of beta readers. Your critique partner should help you with that, because memoir is tough. Because first you're writing out all the hard stuff and the stuff that you need to write out as a healing process, which probably doesn't all belong in the memoir, right? And then so your critique partners and editors will help you get that through that, and then it would be ready for prime time. I mean, like still not finished, but for beta readers. But for like travel, genre authors, business, others, I just put it out. I just give it to as many people as possible.
You don't worry that that would hinder your sales further, because Rashid is interested to see what's really driven your sales. So it's
Mhm.
yeah.
What mostly drives my sales is that people are familiar with my work through my stories. And it's funny, beta readers buy your book. So it's um, and you got to think about it like this. So you're only really going to have, like, say, if you invite, I have a form. I have this somewhere. You get on my mailing list, and I'll try to remember the form for getting beta readers. Um, and if 100 people fill out that form, you'll probably only really get 12 real beta readers, right? I'm not talking critique partners, but beta readers.
Yeah.
And these are the people, and the other ones, the other 100 too, are going to become your book marketing street team, right? You've heard that term, right? Do you talk about that at KWL a lot? Your book marketing street team?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they don't know they're going to be a part of your book marketing street team. This is what you're calling it in your head. But these are the people that you keep on your mailing list, because you're going to have an email list, right? Who are, you're going to thank them at every chance you get for improving your book, and take their suggestions. And even, like, if they stop at chapter 4 and they can't get any farther, like 3 people do that, you're going to have to figure out why they're stopping at chapter 4.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And when the book is ready and you've taken all their feedback and thanked them and for the feedback that they've given you, do you think that they're not going to leave a 5-star review for you on Amazon? Because they are, because they helped you write this book, right?
Yeah, they
Even
feel
if they've
part of
changed a
it.
comma. It's so funny. Even punctuation. People feel invested in your success because they are a part of it. And being a writer is a mystery for so many people. And so to be a part of that creation process, it makes them very proud. And you need their help so much, not just with the story development, but with the marketing. And
Yeah.
so that's marketing. I think it's like a natural part of marketing that's not hard. It's hard, you have to keep reminding them, and there are autoresponders in, mailing systems that help you do this mechanical stuff. And if you just completely can't do that, you can hire help, pretty easily and cheaply to do that kind of stuff or learn it. So beta publishing is invaluable.
Yeah. It's kind of marketing that doesn't really seem like marketing, because you're just talking to a reader who, probably likes your work anyway and wants to be
Mm-hmm.
involved. So yeah, it's quite a clever way to do things.
Yeah, and I just think you think of writing as this isolation, like I said, isolated process, but it isn't. Sharing your work is half of the work,
Mm-hmm.
figuring out what people think and what they want and what moves them, right? And so often what moves them is the super intimate impressions, letting your heart, bleed all over the page, right? Because that's where we share our humanity, right? It's not what we see or the story we make up about another person. It's like what you bring, to the story, whether it's fiction or nonfiction.
No, absolutely. Well, so we were talking about marketing a little bit. So let's stay on this vein. And you sort
Okay.
of mentioned having an email list. So do you think that that's still considered like the most valuable marketing tool?
Yeah, because it's the only way you can direct market,
Right.
right? Yeah. So, yeah. And it's
I
important to ask your list a lot and give your list the opportunity to read your stuff, or you can even publish a story or a small story to your list.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
think that some authors that are brand new to things kind of think that using social media is sort of like enough, and that's a way to like reach that audience. But I guess you never know what changes can be made, and at least with your email list, that's yours, and these are people that have like signed up to hear what you want to say.
Yeah, you're so right, because you can so easily get lost in the social media algorithmic changes, whatever they feel like is they want to show you, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there was that thing, you lose a lot of readers, and then people say, well, you have to go make me show up in your feed first by doing step 1 and step 2 and step 3, and they're not going to do that. They're just going to
No.
lose track of you. So sad.
I know, I know.
Mhm.
And yeah, just anything that you don't have any control over is I
Yeah.
would put less effort into that and more effort into the stuff that you can really
Yeah.
own.
Yeah.
But
True.
what advice do you have for anyone that's wanting to build up a good list of not people looking for free stuff, but just like people that are genuinely interested in your writing?
Yeah. Well, I came up with this technique, and I teach it. So you can, I talk about it on my email list. I teach it, but basically it's this. You create a survey, right? Like a Google survey, a Google form. There are all kinds of survey tools, but Google Forms is great. And you ask questions, um, you know, um, about who they are and what they like. It's so dependent on genre in your book and what you want to talk about. Like, what do you want to talk about? If I was writing a book on motorcycles, you know, I would ask, like, what is your favorite for the motorcycle audience? Like, what do you ride? Do you ride a sport bike or an adventure bike or a cruiser? How often do you ride? Where do you live? Things like that. Um, uh, and then leave a space for, what do you want me to know? Like, are you more interested in gear? Do you wear gear? Just stuff that we talk about in the motorcycle industry. Where do you want to go? Like, what's your next trip? And then leave a space for comments, and leave a lot of space for them to enter their own words. And then you can see what they really want to know about. And then you can start a conversation. And then you can create a freebie. You can create this, giveaway, whether it's a tip sheet or a list of gear reviews, or, the top 10 place roads for motorcyclists. You can provide that if they sign up for your email list, right? So that's what you're going for. So you're starting a conversation. Once they're on your email list, you can follow up with them and go, what did you think of that? Did you want anything else on this list that I gave you? And start having conversations and inviting comment. I always invite comment on my emails. I'm like, okay, is this what you wanted to know? I'd love to know what you're doing. Where'd you go? What gear are you wearing for the summer? Whatever, just hit reply and let me know. And people do. And I have a big list and I get a lot of responses.
I was going to ask how you managed to go through them all and have the time to dedicate on
Well,
such a personal in such a personal way.
well, this is marketing, right? I mean, these people are buying my books. These people are telling other people about my books and about my Facebook groups and about, these are topics that I'm interested in. These are top things that I talk to with my friends. And so they become my friends, but it's also marketing. And so I'm staying in touch with what people are interested in, like what new books they're reading. Yeah, it's just, it does, it doesn't take as long as you think, but it does give you, food for thought. Like, okay, what can I give them next? Like, what
Right.
do they want next? How do I keep them engaged? Maybe I should start a Facebook group for this segment of my readership. Like, uh, it, you know, it's, you can't do any marketing until you know what people want. So this is the
Exactly.
most valuable, conversations are the most valuable part of marketing, and it's free. You don't have to pay for it. You have your time. People are like, oh, I can't afford Amazon ads. I can't afford Facebook ads, but you can afford to have a conversation, right?
Yeah. I love that idea that yeah, you definitely need to know what people want before you can market to them. You can't
Mhm.
assume that you know what they want. But so we were
Mhm.
talking about the kind of like, because you're in the travel writing genre, and like what some people consider like a niche genre, which I guess maybe like it is, as it's sort of smaller. But you found such success in it. So like, was that from just doing what you were doing earlier, sort of reaching out to the Facebook groups and things like that? Is that how you sort of felt you made your name, or was it just keeping traveling? Is that how you sort of just kept
Yeah.
churning stuff out?
Yeah, I kept traveling. I kept, kept engaged with my audience on my trips. Like when I went to, I took a trip from Austria to Morocco, like from the snow
Oh
all the
wow.
way to the desert, the Sahara Desert, and back. And every day I would tweet a few times. Every couple days I would do a Facebook post, and every week I would do a blog post, kind of like that. So I don't, I don't embrace every new technology. I kind of stick with Facebook. I've been struggling with Instagram, but I'm doing it. My audience is mostly on Facebook. Like if I'm writing about motorcycle adventure travel, they're all on Facebook. There's some on Instagram. If I'm writing about self-publishing, they're pretty much on Facebook and LinkedIn. Um, so what was I saying? Oh yeah. So I do keep in conversation during my trips, but between trips, I'm always publishing stories in anthologies. I'm going to events, and I think writers underestimate the power of events.
Yeah.
Right. Was consulting. I do a lot of author consulting, and I was consulting with a woman who was writing a legal thriller, and we had her speaking at lawyers' conferences all over the country and reading from her book. And she experienced amazing sales
Oh, I'm sure,
just
because
from
they're
doing
like, I
that.
want to. Yeah, it's like me with any book that's about publishing or something. You're like, I kind of want to read that.
Yeah, and this can happen if you're writing a mystery, and the mystery, like Kara Black has made this name for mysteries about Paris that occur in Paris, right? And she's got this character, Amy Leduc, and she does tours of Paris. So she's niched into Paris and mysteries, but everybody kind of has their thing. And if you don't have a thing, try to get a thing, right?
Yeah, I
Right.
think I
I
guess
mean, a
it
lot.
really it separates you from the kind of so many books that are available now, as like digital has sort of exploded. And it's one piece of advice I do see with we have a lot of romance writers on Kobo Writing Live, and some things that people do, or they would just choose the category romance contemporary. And I'm like, oh, you're gonna drown in that category though. Like if you can be like a little bit more specific to like some angle of your story, then that'll kind of help you reach a different audience.
Right. It's true. And that's, you just said something that leads to the big scary word called metadata, right?
Yeah.
Metadata and categories and, all of that. And that's really important. Your category, if you can niche down into a category, you're going to have more success. And if you have good metadata, which means a good title, a good subtitle, a good book description, a good author bio, you're going to have a lot better chance of succeeding, right?
Yeah, for sure. I like that you appreciate metadata as well. It's like
I love
just
metadata. Such a
I
geek.
always I also do, but it's like just feels like the nerdiest thing in the world to to really like.
I know it does, doesn't it? But it's just simply, it's what the technical industry calls it, but it's just basically your cover image, your title, your subtitle, the words you use. So it's very scary when you say it that way, but when you break it down, it's not so scary.
Yeah. Peter says that he's going off looking for his thing now, but that it's
Oh,
also really
good.
good advice that you're giving. So, um,
Excellent. Mhm. Mhm.
So I wanted to ask, as you are kind of like come leaps and bounds, I think I can't imagine you being shy and not wanting to read from your book. But you have your podcast and you're like a very confident speaker now. And I'm just wondering if you think that podcasts are a good marketing tool for authors, like especially in like a niche genre, like because it's a very specific audience, I guess.
Yeah, I have the author friendly podcast, which you can still find on Destination Published, with Chrissy, who was with Kobo in your place before,
Mhm.
and the other industry experts. And I did that for a year, and I did not continue it. It was just a one season thing. I thought I would continue it. It did take a long time. I think it's, if your industry or if your niche is not drowning in podcasts and you really want to create and you have, I don't know, this is so hard. It's so hard because it takes a long time. On the one hand, if you have a podcast and you can ask anybody to be on it and they'll probably say yes. So it's a really good way to make contact with influencers, and be the popular kid, the cool kid, right? But your podcast, like, there's so many, it could just get drowned in the number of podcasts there are in the world, and you might only get that from it. Like you may,
Mhm.
so if you only want to connect with influencers and you don't expect to rise to the top without a lot of work, yeah, I think it's almost better to be on podcasts.
I was gonna say, like, maybe try and find one that like you really love or find interesting and see if there's some way that you can get involved there. Um, like
Yeah,
yeah, I'm sure there's some motorcycle adventure podcasts out there
yeah.
probably.
Yeah, you would be surprised at how many motorcycle adventure travel podcasts there are.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You should be on some of have you been on any? Like I want to look up
Well,
some
I
interviews.
I used to co-host on Side Stand Up, but it went on for 5 or 6 years, and then um, disappeared. And that was the most popular one. There's one called Adventure Rider Radio,
Oh,
and if you look my name up there, you'll find my interview about my American Borders trip, and that's a really good podcast. There are so many more, really.
nice. I like that
Yeah,
title, Adventure Writers Radio. I'm gonna have to have a
yeah,
listen to that.
yeah,
Nice. Well, what do
yeah,
you think about kind of trends as they're happening? I know we've sort of talked a little bit about like the basics that you always need for publishing, having your readers early, getting your mailing list set up early. But in terms of marketing, what do you think about kind of new trends that we're seeing? Like I know the Kobo office is just always talking about TikTok. I haven't given in to join it yet, but my team love it. How do you feel about this, like jumping on like whatever the trend is, or whether it's Clubhouse or something that's happening?
yeah. I went on Clubhouse and I joined a few conversations, and then I immediately figured out that this is going to be a huge time suck, and so I can't do it anymore. TikTok, I keep hearing, like you, Tara, is the thing, but I can't. Don't have the bandwidth. Um, I just need to stick with
You
my
could get
things.
some like sweet videos on your bike too, I bet.
Yeah, I could. I mean, this one gal in adventure motorcycling or just motorcycling, she did a TikTok where she dressed in all the different kinds of motorcycle gear, like the racing leathers and then the adventure gear and then the cruiser gear. And it was this, first she was wearing this and that, and she was in different positions. And that was cool. But I think it would just exhaust me to try to think of all that. I think if you're a video camera person, you should put your energy there, but I'm not. My mastermind group, which it's also awesome to get a mastermind group together. It can be your critique partners too, but you could talk about business and um, whether what's trending and help each other, teach each other things. Um, anyway, she's embraced, one of the leader of the mastermind group is embracing TikTok wholeheartedly. But she has a budget, right? She
Mm.
has a video editor. So she'll do it, but she doesn't produce it. And so doing it is is fun, but producing it is so much trouble. I don't have I don't have a hard time with production. I produce my own author-friendly podcast using Audacity and a few other tools, and uploaded it myself and got distributed it myself. Um, and I even cut music in and out of it because I just kind of like that process. And then I put together a template, and so it was like that week after week. But I don't think I have the patience for video. I just don't, even though I know it's valuable. I was
Yeah.
thinking about doing a 1 minute video, just a YouTube video, because I'm reviewing a lot of gear for women writers, and there are these skinny jeans now that are armored, and they've got Kevlar in them, so they're rated really high. So if you take a fall, they won't, slide off to your skin, and they look like skinny jeans. And there are these motorcycle boots that look like high top sneakers. And I thought, what if I just did a 1 minute video on like gear or trends or new motorcycles or whatever I was thinking about? Would that be fun? So maybe you can tell me.
Yeah, I think it would be fun. You should do that.
Should I do that? Okay.
Yeah,
Just 1 minute, right?
exactly,
It'll
exactly.
probably take me an hour to do that minute.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's the reason why I haven't jumped on it either, is that I just can't. The idea of having another app that is going to take time,
Yeah.
I can't bring myself to do it. Um, but when it comes to sort of balancing the time, like, what do you think as a writer, and especially as an independent writer, like, what's a good ratio of like writing time versus like marketing time and like fussing around on TikTok?
Yeah. Well, okay. So the kind of marketing that we were talking about before, which is having conversations with, other writers and critique groups and beta readers, that's kind of, I don't really consider that marketing tasks. It's so much fun, and I need to know it anyway. But the marketing tasks that I think about are the work of figuring out the posts that are going to go out this week. And I don't do a very good job of that. I kind of ad hoc engagement, whatever catches my eye. And I know I should do better with that. Um, creating a plan. If you're launching a book, for instance, a launch plan is like it's essential,
For
and
sure.
that's marketing. But ongoing marketing, um, yeah, it should take about half of your time. Like if you're writing for 3 hours, you should probably be marketing for 3 hours. I'm sorry to say that. Maybe I'm just including, like beta reader engagement and stuff in that, like that too, in that.
Yeah, I agree though. I think 50-50 is probably like a good split. I know everyone has their own sort of ways of doing things as well, but yeah, if you're kind of coming in as a relatively new person to the indie
Mhm.
industry, I would just be like, be prepared to maybe split it 50-50.
Yeah, and I would include, I have a lot of online courses and workshops, and I think that also would be included in that 50%. So um, it's not just making the list, it's learning and talking and, yeah, just being active,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for sure. So where can people find out about these online courses,
Yeah. Thanks.
if they're interested, or if, even in your consultations?
Yeah, so my publishing site is called Destination Published, and I have a blog there about, book distribution and self-publishing and trends in marketing and things. And there's a link there to my workshops and courses. So you can just press that, or you can go to selfpubbootcampcourses.com. And trying to get everybody into my bestseller book marketing course, because it's the course that I make people take before. I created it because I got so frustrated teaching people the basics of book marketing that every time before I do one-on-one consults or even workshops, I make them take that course, so that they kind of know where they are in the marketplace and can get a really good grounding.
I mean, that's getting the most out of your time
Ah,
with them too, right? That it's more valuable to an author to get the beyond basics from you.
I know, because if they're going to be paying me thousands of dollars, it's like I don't want to be teaching them these very, very basic research steps that they can do on their own. So I've made it like $150, which is a fraction of my rate. So I'm just dying for people to know where they are in the ecosystem, right? Like some people are they don't even know what genre they're writing in. And so that is the first step. Like, know what genre you're writing in and what the 10 other books are that are closest to yours that have been published recently, right? You know that.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm also doing a training and certification program for people who help authors, like designers and editors. Because when people ask for book designer edits, they often ask, how can I publish? And these professionals don't know. So I'm gathering a bunch of professionals to train them on what the right answer is, what self-publishing is, what's hybrid publishing, the whole process of query lettering and getting an agent and everything, which is just don't do that now. It's so rare to get an agent. And then I have my carlaking.com, which is my motorcycle misadventures and my stories and stuff. And then the virtual travel writers group on Facebook. And I have a publishing, just find me on Facebook. I have a self-publishing boot camp group as well.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm everywhere, right? Except on TikTok.
Yet, Tammy says she wants to see your video, so perhaps that's your entryway in.
Tammy, I know Tammy. She's good at video. We can talk.
Nice. Well, I am wondering, do you have any person that's been really inspirational, like your favorite travel writer? I'd be curious to hear.
Oh, they're all the like the Victorian ladies. Oh my gosh, I used to when I was in my 20s, I used to read them. Isabella Bird, who was a Victorian traveler. Dervla Murphy, an Irish, Tara. Do you know?
I don't
Dervla
know her,
Murphy?
but you said Dervla Murphy is a very Irish name.
Yes, it is. She took off from Ireland to India on a bicycle, and she's written a number of books. So she was solo early on. Very inspirational. Oh my gosh. The woman who went up into the Himalayas. I forgot her name. She's so well known. There was also a Victorian lady who went to West Africa, and she's got a huge book. She was not killed in a jaguar pit because, with the spikes, they dug pits with spikes to catch jaguars. She fell into one and she wasn't killed because she had her woolen skirts and petticoats on. Right. I'm thinking, oh my gosh. When I was there, I could barely breathe. I was on a bicycle and trying to wear clothes respectfully, right, to cover my knees and all of that. But oh my gosh, the woolens in West Africa. Mary something. I have a whole list. I had a little list. When I went to college, I went to UC Santa Cruz and got my degree in English literature and creative writing. I did my thesis on these women travel writers.
Oh, I would love to read that.
I would too. It got lost somewhere and it was only typed.
Oh,
boo-hoo.
Back in the day.
I know.
Well, where's your next adventure? Has COVID restricted sort of international travel or anything?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So in 2019, in November, I was in Thailand. And I have friends, they're from Belgium, who live there, who invited me, and they have motorcycles and scooters. And my girlfriend and I scootered and motorcycled all over Chiang Mai area, and a month was not enough. And so I was booked to go back in November of 2020, of course. So
Yeah.
of course, I couldn't do it. So I'm still waiting to go back to Chiang Mai. I mean, I haven't been to Australia, so many places, so many places. I have a girlfriend who lives in Panama. You know, this is a thing that the internet has brought me and has brought to all of us, is this connection with people all over the world. And it doesn't matter if you're a travel writer or not, if you know people from all over the world, you know, you can travel and stay with them. And it's just, you create communities everywhere. We're not limited to our geographical area anymore, which is, you know, when the internet started and I started blogging and then Facebook, and I can literally go anywhere in the world and get a motorcycle, and, you know, from a friend, right? And people say friends in quotes, but they're not. You can, you know, I've met so many people that were only friends on Facebook, or, you know, and
Yeah.
via my blog. So it does hurt that I have not been able to travel. I really love traveling. It's my life, and I love to write about it. So I'm writing a lot about gear and motorcycles. I mean, California is a nice place to be stuck,
Right. I was
right?
gonna say at least you can still take your bike out, but that's interesting that you've
Mm-hmm.
shifted to writing about sort of like the technical aspects. That's a smart way
Mm-hmm.
to keep yourself busy while you can't do your traveling for your travel
Yeah,
writing.
yeah. I mean, luckily the motorcycle helmet is own sort of protective. You know, like when COVID happened, it did become the safest sport, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
never thought about that, but yeah, of
like
course.
gloves and helmets, and so people were motorcycling everywhere. And the campgrounds closed, and so my friends were offering camp spots in their yards all over the country.
Oh, nice.
It's a really, COVID really did. I, you know, I think when disasters happen, we all pull together. You know, we always want to help each other. I think it brings out the best in people.
Hmm.
And that's what happened in the travel community, at least. So
Nice.
I'm grateful to have all those friends, and I'll be very grateful to travel again.
Yeah, well, if you ever want to ride your bike all the way up here to Toronto, you are more than welcome. I would
Could happen.
love to meet you in person, show you around.
Great.
I don't know if I would. Yeah, I mean, maybe I would hop on the back, but I don't know if you can have passengers on yours. But
Yes, I can. I
yeah.
can.
Oh, you can. Okay, perfect,
Oh,
perfect.
yeah.
I'll be your
Yeah.
passenger.
Okay.
I'll hop right on. Oh,
Awesome.
well, thanks so much, Carla. And people can find out at you have your tag there at Misadventuring, and can go on your
Yep.
website, and the books are accessible through Kobo. I would definitely recommend getting your the consumer guidebook, because it's just such a good resource of everything you need to know basically about indie publishing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I work hard on that. So if you see anything that's wrong or missing or outdated, let me know. I've got this running list that I fix all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Takes
thank
a
you, everyone.
village.
It does for sure. Thanks for everyone for joining and for letting us know where you're coming from. And yeah, we'll be back soon with another wonderful guest that I can chat about. So thank you so much, Carla, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank you everybody for participating.